Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein and we're here in our beautiful studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Marc Zell. He's the chairman of Republicans Overseas in Israel. Marc, thanks for being on the show.
Great to be here, Josh.
Tell our viewers a little about what is Republicans Overseas in Israel.
Hey, Josh, you know, we have 300,000 Americans here in Israel who have the right to vote in American elections. And our job in Republicans Overseas, first of all, is to help them register and vote. And secondly, to convey the message of our president and the administration here to the Israeli public.
Now, Israelis went overwhelmingly for President Trump. Why did you think that happened in such big numbers?
Well, because, look, President Trump has been a dream for Israelis. Things he's done for the Jewish state, the embassy, the Iran agreement, the recognition of the Golan Heights, you know, one thing after the next. We could spend an hour just going over that. But he's also been great for America, the American economy, immigration, energy. He's been great for the world, what he's done for NATO and for the struggle against ISIS and the struggle against Iran. I mean, he's been really an amazing president.
Well, the media is saying that this is over. It's now we got President-elect Biden, but you're standing strong. You're saying it's not over by a long shot. There's a lot more to go. Why do you feel that way?
Absolutely. First of all, he's not the president-elect. I mean, he's not the president-elect until the Electoral College meets in December and decides that he's won the vote. At the moment, not a single state, Josh, has certified the election returns. The votes are still being counted. This idea that he went on the news on Saturday and declared himself to be president-elect of the United States, I mean, it's very premature and very risky. We've got a lot of questions about this election. We'll talk about it.
So tell us a little bit about the questions. You know, we're seeing things out of Pennsylvania, a lot of accusations of voter fraud. They still can't seem to count the votes in Arizona and Georgia. Some places have called it, but some say it's not. There's still votes out. What's happening? No
places have called it, only the media. And no place in the U.S. Constitution does it say that the American media determines who's going to be the president. We already, and Pennsylvania is a great example because that was put in Biden's column. That gives him 290 electoral votes, you know, supposedly. But today, Real Clear Politics, the premier election site, took Pennsylvania out of his column and put it back as a toss-up. Why? Because of all these irregularities that you referred to in Pennsylvania. And the race is too close to call in Wisconsin and in Georgia. They're still counting the votes. In Arizona, they're still counting the votes. It may very well turn and flip to Donald Trump. North Carolina is still out, where Trump has a significant advantage. Really all over the United States, there's a lot of questions here, and we'll talk about the extent of these irregularities. It's mind-boggling.
But isn't it getting to the point where it's just too late? I mean, you're saying December 14th, that's just around the corner. Are they going to be able to go after these votes to find out what really happened?
Well, listen, I don't think you have a choice. Given, you know, we just filed suit in Pennsylvania yesterday, the suits in Michigan and Nevada and Arizona, and all of them are pointing to large-scale problems in the vote. A democracy depends, including a republic, depends essentially on the electoral system being being fair. The public needs to have confidence that their vote are going to be counted and be counted fairly, not flooded with all kinds of illegal votes and all the other kinds of problems. Dead people voting and non-residents voting and that kind of thing. It's so widespread in this election, and it seems to be, and we haven't even talked about the computers, but that is the first challenge. It's not about Donald Trump at this point. It's about whether the vote can be trusted, and that means whether or not our democracy is going to survive. It's as simple as that. It's very, very, very significant.
Something that we hear a lot in the media that they're talking about different states that are going to have recounts.
Yeah.
Will that change anything? When you recount, isn't it just recounting the same votes? Wouldn't it come at the same number, even if it is illegal or if there is problems?
Well, and first of all, there are some states, Wisconsin I think is going to recount, Georgia will recount, I think there's talk now that Arizona is going to recount. The question is how they do the recount. If they use the same machines and the same techniques, you know, that's a problem. But they're going to also stumble across the kind of things that we've been talking about. I mean, people that have been voting that shouldn't be voting and that kind of thing. That'll be coming out very possibly during a recount, but it's more than a recount, Josh. In places like Pennsylvania, for example, the Pennsylvania legislature, the Senate and the House I just read today, are calling for a full audit audit of the vote in Pennsylvania. Something similar is happening in Michigan, okay, which was, again, both of those, that's 36 electoral votes were all put in Biden's column, and now there's a big question as to whether that's going to hold. But we're not talking about who wins the election at this point. We're talking about, is the vote fair? Is that fair? Is it accurate? Is it transparent? And given the kind of things that have been going on, observers excluded from overseeing the counting of the votes, hundreds of thousands of votes going through the process without any kind of oversight by the parties fairly, as required by state law. I mean, that's serious. We need to check it out.
We're hearing a lot also that there's interference by activist judges as well. You know, judges are overruling what should be pretty clear-cut voter rules. What's going to stop them from just saying, no, this is all fine, even if you do find evidence?
Well, I have ultimate faith in the legal system in the United States, and it's true a lot of the trial court judges have been very, very partisan in their rulings, and they've been overruled on appeal. Right now, the case in Pennsylvania is in front of the United States Supreme Court, and there Justice Alito has already issued orders that the late ballots that came in, mail-in ballots that came in Pennsylvania, be segregated and counted separately. And that's an amazing order. And then now we're waiting to see if the court takes the case finally, based on what the opinion that was issued before the election. We can expect that, one, they'll take the case and they may well reverse it. That'll turn Pennsylvania, could turn Pennsylvania in a moment. So I have confidence in the legal system ultimately, and I think it will work. But you know, we have to let it run its course. We need to be patient. We need to be vigilant.
You've mentioned that this is not about Donald Trump. This is about the legal system. Yet we heard that Donald Trump is now going back on the campaign trail, not campaigning, but talking about why this was a stolen election, getting this information out in wide, massive rallies. Why is he doing this?
This is really important because, you know, ultimately it's the legislatures under the U.S. Constitution in each of these states that certifies their electors. Okay, they're the ones who are going to say who won the Electoral College vote. And they're responsible directly to the people. What Donald Trump is doing is saying, giving them the support that they need to take a close look at this, the legislatures in each of the states. And they want to listen to the voice of the people. When you go to these rallies, it turned the so-called blue wave before the 2020 election on November 3rd into a red tidal wave. That was Donald Trump's doing because of these rallies. If he's going to come back there now and say get these people energized and empowered to protect the vote, this is something really important, and he can do it. And that's why I'm totally in favor of it, and everybody is looking forward to these rallies.
You know, everyone in the know, people who are political operatives or involved in the campaign, they're saying the same thing you're saying. But if you go online, if you go to the media, you're not hearing any of it. In fact, even the most staunch supporters of Donald Trump are saying it's over. Why is the message not getting out?
Well, first of all, the most staunch supporters of Donald Trump are not saying that, Josh. I want to correct that. There are a couple people that in the beginning, you know, were kind of dumbstruck by the results. I mean, it was so completely contrary to anybody's expectations. But once we began to understand the extent of the irregularities and how it was planned and implemented, a lot of those people now have come back on. You know, we've got the Republicans in the Congress, both in the Senate and the House, strongly behind the president. There were all kinds of false news stories yesterday about Jared Kushner and the close circle advisors advising Donald Trump to concede the race. Fortunately, he won't do it. You know, in 1960, the same thing happened. Richard Nixon ran against John Kennedy, and the Kennedys bought the election with the vote in Illinois, with Richard Daley in Chicago. Nobody said anything. Republicans just conceded and walked away. This president is different. He's not a politician. He's not going to let this happen. He's fighting for democracy, and that's really what this is about.
Mark, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
I think the most important thing I've got to say to them, Josh, is don't give up hope. America and American values are strong. Be vigilant, be determined, be patient. This will work out with God's help.
Thank you, Mark, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.